So now moving on over to the last subject of today's podcast right here. I'm keeping this very short, sweet, and simple for you guys because I know it's Friday. And if you are coming from the E-Tuesday segment of the MorganMan Sports Podcast, I know you are fixing to gear up like I am to watch the Call of Duty League. So I'm going to keep it short for you guys. So going to Calvin Ridley, as I mentioned at the top of the show right here, Calvin Ridley could explode in the 2020 NFL season. Me personally, I think he is. He's going to be one of these wide receivers that's really going to go above and beyond Julio Jones this season. Yes, Julio Jones is really going to be a major problem in this 2020 Falcons offense, but defenses are probably going to be sleeping on Calvin Ridley while he's racking up like 1,000 plus more yards and double-digit touchdowns. So in 2019, Ridley had 63 receptions for 866 yards and a team-leading 7 touchdowns, along with 34 yards and 2 rushing attempts, when he left Atlanta's 40-20 victory over the Carolina Panthers on December 8th. With what was announced an abdominal pain, Ridley missed the Falcons' final 3 games of the season because of the injury. Falcons offensive coordinator Dirk Koetter said those were pretty substantial numbers, but he still anticipates Ridley will have an improvement year here in 2020. And of course, everybody knows about Calvin Ridley's dominant performance in Alabama, which led to 2 CFP, national championship teams in 3 seasons at Alabama. He left the Crimson Tide ranked 2nd in the receptions and touchdown catches and 3rd in receiving yards on the school's career list. So Calvin Ridley is definitely a huge factor whenever it comes to offenses, and luckily he is on the Atlanta Falcons. He is our next Julio Jones pretty much. So everybody wants to sit here and say, hey, Calvin Ridley is great, but he's not going to be the next Julio Jones. I beg to differ, because Calvin Ridley, he has learned from the best wide receiver in the league, and that is Julio. And I think whenever it does come that time where Julio says, you know what, man, I really had enough, I'm going to go ahead and retire, then Calvin Ridley is going to step in a big role right here. And also to mention, yes, Matt Ryan has been holding a 9-week offseason program himself, where he's getting some time in with certain players on the offense to really kind of build that chemistry. And of course, everybody knows about Hayden Hurst and Todd Gurley. And of course, Calvin Ridley is a part of this deal right here. And I believe Julio Jones was a part of this as well. So building that chemistry, especially with Calvin Ridley going into his 3rd year. That's right, guys. It seems like it's been forever that we've had Calvin Ridley on the team, but he's only been on the team for now what's going to be 3 years. So it's going to be a huge one, and this right here is the time where Calvin Ridley really needs to explode on the offense, because next year will be his contract year. And if the team decides, well, we want 1 more year, then he'll go into his 5th year. So who knows, but this is the year that Calvin Ridley really needs to explode in order to ensure himself a contract with the Atlanta Falcons and be a Falcon for pretty much all of his career. So guys, do you think Calvin Ridley is the next Julio Jones? And again, my answer is yes. I do believe he is the next Julio Jones. When will that time come? Probably after his rookie deal is over with and Julio Jones is starting to, get in that, hey, I want less reps, and, let the other players kind of like have their spotlight, kind of like getting ready for retirement kind of phase of his NFL career. Which honestly, again, I hope it's a long time. But Julio Jones is, getting of that age, and, things might be starting to slow down. So I hope not, but it's going to slowly become that eventually. But guys, again, I hope you all did enjoy today's episode of Falcons Friday here on the MorganMan Sports Podcast. I hope it's a beautiful Friday morning for everybody that is listening to this podcast. And again, for all my Tuesday fans that are listening to Falcons Friday, let's go Atlanta phase, because we definitely need that fourth title under our belt heading into champs, which will be in later August. But guys, again, hope you all enjoyed. And if you did, make sure to like button here on SoundCloud.com, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. Till then, I, Cole Morgan, will catch you all later.